It was a bright, sunny afternoon in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of day that made you want to go outside and enjoy the weather. My name is Lucas, and I'm just like you, learning English step by step. I know it can feel difficult sometimes, but trust me, it gets easier every day with practice. And today, I'm going to show you how we can learn together by telling a story about friendship, adventure, and learning English in simple, everyday situations. You see, I have two great friends, Pedro and Sophia. We live in the same neighborhood and always find new ways to help each other, whether it's with schoolwork or just figuring out how to say something in English. Today, we're going to do something fun. I'm going to tell you about an afternoon when we decided to play soccer at the park. But before we start, there was something important I had to do first. I needed to go to the market, and guess what? I had to ask for something in English. Yes, I was nervous. But don't worry, I'll show you how I managed to do it, and I'll help you learn too. Before we go on, don't forget to turn on the captions and repeat after me. That way, you can practice your pronunciation while following the story. Ready? Let's begin. It was a perfect day for soccer. The sun was shining, and the park was full of people, some jogging, others walking their dogs. Pedro and I kicked the ball back and forth, laughing as we tried to make the best passes. We were enjoying the game, but soon I remembered something. I needed to stop by the market. I'll be right back, I said, stopping to catch my breath. I need to buy some things for later. Pedro looked at me with a smile. What are you getting? He asked. Just a few things, some snacks, drinks. But I'm a little worried about asking for them in English, I confessed. I don't know how to say some things properly. Pedro gave me a reassuring look. Don't worry, man. I'll go with you. We can practice together. You'll see it's easy. Even though Pedro was confident, I still felt nervous. I had never been to that market by myself before, let alone spoken in English there, but this was a good opportunity to practice, right? We walked toward the market, the excitement of the game still fresh in my mind. As we reached the entrance, I took a deep breath and tried to shake off the nervousness. Okay, Lucas, you can do this, I whispered to myself. Pedro noticed and smiled. Remember, just ask for what you need. It's just like how you ask for something in your own language, but in English. Easy, right? I nodded, trying to feel more confident. Right, let's go. The market was busy, and I immediately started feeling a little overwhelmed. The shelves were filled with so many items, and the cashier line was long. I felt like everyone was watching me, but I knew this was the moment to push through. Pedro and I walked up and down the aisles, and I tried to think about what I would need to say. The first thing on my list, a bottle of water. We stopped in front of the drinks section, and I looked at the water bottles. I had never paid much attention to how I would ask for something like this in English before, but now it was my turn to try. Okay, Lucas, you can do this, I said quietly to myself. Pedro, noticing my hesitation, patted me on the back. Let's start simple. Do you remember how to ask for something in English? I nodded. I think so. Can I have right? Exactly. Can I have is perfect for asking for something. You can use it everywhere, whether you're at a market, in a store, or even at a friend's house. I took a deep breath and approached the shelf with the water bottles. I turned to Pedro. Okay, here I go. I'll try. I stepped up to the shelf and looked at the different bottles. The words felt heavy in my mouth, but I knew I had to push through. I turned to Pedro and said, "Can I have a bottle of water?" Pedro smiled. Great job. Now, what do you say if the person asks you if you need anything else? I thought for a second. I think they might say, anything else? Exactly. Pedro said, giving me a thumbs up. And if you're done, you can say, no, that's all, thank you. I nodded, feeling more confident. Okay, let's try this again. We walked to the counter, and a friendly cashier greeted us. Hi there, can I help you? She asked, smiling. This was it, the moment I had been dreading. But with Pedro's encouragement, I took a deep breath and answered, yes, please. Can I have a bottle of water? I said, almost surprised by how natural the words sounded. The cashier smiled and picked up the bottle. Anything else? She asked. I looked at Pedro, who gave me an encouraging nod. No, that's all, thank you, I said, feeling a little more relaxed. Perfect, the cashier replied as she rang up the water. That'll be $2. Pedro looked at me and grinned. See, it wasn't so hard, was it? I laughed, relieved. No, it wasn't, but I still have to ask for a few more things. As we moved through the store, I practiced asking for a few more items. Can I have some bread? Can I have a sandwich? I repeated the phrases over and over until they felt more comfortable. Pedro walked beside me, offering suggestions and giving me more practice. Good. Now, let's try a new one. When you ask for something, you can also say, could I have? It's the same as can I have, but it sounds a little more polite. Okay, I'll try it, I said, feeling excited to learn something new. Could I have a sandwich, please? Perfect, Pedro said with a proud smile. See how easy it is. I couldn't believe how much I had already learned in such a short time. Asking for simple things at the market felt like a small victory, but to me, it was a big step forward in my journey to speaking English with more confidence. As we walked through the aisles, I felt more comfortable using the phrases I had learned. Each time I asked for something in English, it felt less like a challenge and more like a natural part of my day. But there was still one more part of our trip I was nervous about, speaking to someone I didn't know. We reached the snack section where there were many bags of chips, cookies, and candy. Pedro and I were deciding what to pick when we noticed a friendly-looking woman behind the counter. She smiled at us as we walked by. "Can I help you?" she asked. I wasn't expecting this. I had practiced asking for items, but now I had to respond to a question I hadn't thought about. Pedro looked at me and whispered, You can say, "Yes, please." I took a deep breath. "Yes, please," I said with a smile. "Can I have a bottle of juice?" The woman smiled and picked up a bottle of juice. "Anything else?" she asked. Yes, please. Can I have some chips?" I said, feeling proud of how smoothly the words came out. The cashier placed the chips in my basket and smiled. "Sure. Anything else?" she asked. "Again, that's all. Thank you," I said, remembering what Pedro had taught me. She rang up my items and handed me the receipt. "Thank you for shopping with us. Have a great day," she said. "Thank you," I replied, my confidence growing. Pedro and I left the checkout line and walked toward the exit. "You did great," he said with a thumbs up. "I can't believe I just spoke to someone in English like that," I said, feeling amazed at myself. It was so much easier than I thought. As we walked toward the door, I realized something important. I had started to think less about making mistakes and more about just trying. And that made all the difference. After finishing our shopping, we walked toward the checkout. I felt proud of myself for handling the situations we had already encountered, but there was still one more challenge ahead. I had a special task in mind. I needed to buy a gift for a friend's birthday. Pedro and I had been talking about it earlier, and I realized I had to do this in English too. The problem? I had no idea how to ask for a gift in English. I'd only been practicing food and drinks so far. Pedro noticed my nervous look and said, "Don't worry, we've got this. Just ask for what you need, like we did before." I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. We walked to the section where they sold small gifts and trinkets. I looked around, but nothing really caught my eye. Finally, I picked up a small, colorful box that looked like it could make a good gift. "Okay, here we go," I muttered to myself. "Let's ask for the gift." Pedro smiled and stood behind me. "You've got this, Lucas. Just say, 'Can I have a gift for my friend?'" I nodded, repeating the phrase in my head. "Can I have a gift for my friend?" I said, turning to the shop assistant. A small gift?" The shop assistant looked at me with a friendly smile and nodded. "Sure, I can help you with that." "Do you know what kind of gift you want?" I felt relieved. "Yes, I think this one will do," I said, pointing to the small box I had picked out. "Great choice," she said, ringing up the gift. "Anything else today?" I felt confident now, and I quickly responded, "No, that's all, thank you." As she handed me the gift and my receipt, I realized something important. I had just completed my first real challenge in English outside of a classroom. I wasn't just learning vocabulary and phrases, I was using them to connect with people in real situations. Pedro and I walked out of the store, and I felt a sense of accomplishment. "That wasn't so bad, was it?" Pedro asked with a grin. "No, not at all," I replied, smiling. "I think I can handle anything now." It was amazing how much I had learned in just one trip to the market. What had seemed like a daunting task at first, asking for things in English, had turned into a fun, rewarding experience. And that's the beauty of learning a new language. The more you practice, the more confident you become. As we left the market, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. My first real experience speaking English outside of class had been a success, and I realized how much I had grown. It wasn't just about knowing the right words or phrases, it was about using them in real situations with real people. Pedro and I walked back to the park, and I found myself replaying the moments in my mind. Asking for a bottle of water, getting the sandwich, speaking to the cashier, and even buying a gift. Each small step felt like a victory. I started to understand that learning a new language is not just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules. It's about feeling confident enough to communicate, even when you make mistakes. "Hey, Lucas," Pedro said, breaking my thoughts. "I can see that you're feeling good. How do you feel about speaking more English from now on?" I smiled. "Honestly, I feel more confident. It's crazy how much I've learned today. And I'm not afraid to make mistakes anymore. I know that's how we improve." Pedro nodded. "Exactly. The more you practice, the better you get. And every mistake is just another lesson learned." I thought about how I used to avoid speaking in English because I was afraid of making mistakes. But now, I saw mistakes as an opportunity to learn. Each time I used a new word or phrase, I got one step closer to fluency. We sat down on the bench in the park, and I reflected on everything I had experienced that afternoon. I was no longer just studying English, I was living it. The world around me had become a classroom, and the people I met were my teachers. "Thank you, Pedro," I said, feeling grateful. "Today really helped me see that I can do this. I'm ready to keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep speaking." Pedro grinned. "That's the spirit, Lucas. Keep practicing, and remember, every small effort adds up. You'll be speaking like a native in no time." As the sun began to set, I felt more motivated than ever. I knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but I was excited to continue my journey. Because today I had taken a big step towards speaking English, and nothing could stop me now. As I sat on the bench with Pedro, I couldn't help but think about everything I had learned over the past few hours. What started as a simple trip to the market had turned into a meaningful journey. I had learned so much more than just a few phrases in English. I had learned to face my fears, to step out of my comfort zone, and to take action, even when I wasn't completely sure of myself. "Today was awesome," I said, looking at Pedro. "I didn't just learn new words. I learned to use them in real situations. I feel more confident about speaking English now." Pedro nodded. "That's the key. It's all about practice. And the more you practice, the easier it gets." I smiled and stood up, feeling energized. "I'm definitely going to keep practicing. I want to speak English every day, even if it's just a little bit. I want to keep learning, and I know I can do it." Pedro gave me a thumbs up. That's the spirit, Lucas. Remember, every step forward counts, no matter how small it seems. Keep it up. As we walked back home, I reflected on how much I had already accomplished. I had made progress, and that was enough to keep me motivated. There would still be challenges ahead, but I now understood that learning a language isn't about being perfect. It's about staying consistent, practicing regularly, and using the language in real situations. To anyone who is just starting to learn English or feeling unsure, my advice is simple. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Each mistake is an opportunity to improve. Every time you speak, you're one step closer to becoming more confident, and the best part, you're not alone. There are millions of people learning English around the world, just like you, so take it one day at a time and don't give up. I walked home with a big smile on my face, ready to take on the next challenge, knowing that my journey with English was just beginning.